Intan Nur Syafiqah binti Muhammad Johar. My matric number is A181543. I like this course because I get to know where to find a data or statistic for my reference.
I'm Adriana Delala. I like this course because it exposed me on how to get input information and data from reliable sources such as MOF, BNM, and DOSM, and how to use them wisely.
Hi, I'm Muhammad Din Syahan bin Jumaid. I like this course because it explains me more detail about development plan and transformation on Malaysian economic history. And other than that, I learned not to get statistics from national and international sources and how to use them. It will benefit me on the future.
I'm Nur Aina binti Abdul Latif. I like this course because I learned how to find data and infographic in internet such as data from MOF Ministry of Finance, the OSM Department of Statistics Malaysia and others.
I'm Muhammad Fuanan bin Muhammad Khalil, number matrix A181550. From the class, I have learned many things about the history of the Malaysian economy, which has faced various economic crises such as the Asian financial crisis, the shock of oil price changes, and also the global financial crisis.
Hi, I'm Dafizul Azali bin Daud, and my matric number is A181665. I like this course because it explained to me how to elaborate some data from the Malaysian economy by using the graph or table. That's all from me.
My name is Nurul Faizata Ain binti Abdullah, matrix number A18567. I love this course because it exposed myself with Malaysian history and also other country. Not only that, I also get to know how to get those accurate statistics and national data.
My name is Tishanti Logeswara and my matrix number is A181143. I like this course because I learned many things about the transformation of Malaysian economics in detail and learned where to find the correct data and graphs for economic purposes. Finally, I also learned about presentation ethics and the way of preparing slides in a precise form.
I'm Siti Suleka binti Asri. I like this course because it taught me on how to find the realistic data or statistic from the authentic sources such as DOSM, MOF, and so on.
My name is Misha Aliana binti Alias. My matrix number is A181704. I like this course because it gives me an understanding of the history of development and growth of the Malaysian economy before independence until now.
On 24 January 2020, Ministry of Health informed that 8 close contacts with the first case of coronavirus in Singapore were in Johor Bahru and quarantined. The first case of COVID-19 was detected in Malaysia on the 25th January 2020. The case traced back to 3 Chinese nationals who entered Malaysia via Singapore on the 24th January 2020. The Ministry of Health confirmed that they have tested positive for coronavirus. All of the victims consist of a 16-year-old elderly woman and her 2 grandchildren, which is 11 and 2 years old respectively. All of them are close family members to the first case that happened in Singapore. Preliminary screening found they did not have a fever and did not have any symptom of infection. Subsequent clinical samples were taken among the contacts to undergo detection testing and further validation of coronavirus. All of them are admitted to the Sungai Buloh Hospital for further treatment. The government has taken an immediate action to handle the case of coronavirus in Malaysia. For example, on 26 January 2020, Ministry of Health plans to add body temperature scanners at the country's entrance. On 27 January 2020, Ministry of Health has identified 26 hospitals nationwide as a precautionary measure to handle cases of suspected COVID infection that requires further examination. The government also temporarily suspended all immigration facilities to Chinese nationals from Wuhan and Hubei province and surrounding areas effective immediately. This table shows the number of COVID-19 cases in Malaysia by states. This number of data is as of 27 September 2021 at noon. It shown that the highest number of cumulated cases is in Selangor, meanwhile the lowest cases is in Perlis. For the new COVID-19 cases, the highest number of new cases is recorded in Sarawak and there are no new COVID cases in Wilayah Persekutuan Labuan.
These are the SOP that being implemented during all phases in Malaysia during MCO. The movement control of public, including provisions of mass gathering for religious, sports, social and cultural activities, closure of all places of worship including mosque, church and temple, closure of all business premises with the exception for supermarket, public markets and grocery stores, closure for all educational institutions, closure of all government and private sector premises except for those providing essential services such as water and electrical services, food premise are prohibited to provide dine-in services, but takeaway and food delivery services are allowed. During MCO, border control by the government, with the prohibitions of interstate travel unless obtained the written police permit with a valid reason, and restrictions on the entry of all tourists and foreign visitors into the country. During CMCO, closure of Malaysia borders and prohibitions of international travelling, relaxations of restrictions to most economic sector with SOP, including physical distancing, temperature checks, and recording the names and contacts of customers, prohibitions of park, theme parks, cinemas, entertainment centres, conference and exhibitions, suspensions of sport activity involving mass gathering, body contact, indoor and stadium sport event, closure of all schools and education institute, restrictions of interstate travel except for work purpose and return to workplace or home after being stranded in the hometowns. Lastly, for RMCO, the closure of Malaysia borders and provisions of international travelling with the exceptions to specific category foreigner to enter Malaysia, for example, foreign diplomats and ambassadors, member of Malaysia My Second Home program, foreigners under medical tourism industry, expatriate with working visas, and etc. Next, interstate travel is allowed except for areas under enhanced MCO, which called EMCO. It was announced in a special address that Malaysia will be implementing a national recovery plan that will be divided into 4 phases according to the states. It was announced that COVID-19 restriction will be it for those who are fully vaccinated, and relaxed SOP are applicable for them, such as dine-in is now allowed, night markets and weekend market is allowed to operate, inter-district and interstate travel is allowed for long-distance couples and parents who wish to visit their children under age of 18 upon obtaining approval from PDRM, and another newly opened business such as car wash, electric and electrical shop, furniture shop, shop equipment stores, clothing, fashions and accessory stores, and hair salons, which for haircuts only. Fully vaccinated individuals may soon be allowed to travel to Langkawi with establish of the Langkawi travel bubble.
The impact of COVID-19 on the Malaysia economy. For my part, I will touch about economic growth and the labour force. Overall, based on the graph, the COVID-19 pandemic that hit the world has affected the Malaysian economy. GDP performance for 2020 declined 5.6%. In 2020, various movement control order (MCO) phases were implemented in the country to curb the outbreak of COVID-19. Thus, the performance of economic activity following the domestic supply and demand factor and the influence of the external sector has led Malaysian economy recorded the negative growth. For service sector, recorded a negative growth of 5.5%. The decrease in service sector was due to the contraction of subsector for tourism related, such as accommodation and transformation and so on. So, following travel restriction, which contributed to the lower foreign tourist arrival to Malaysia, as well as movement restriction of domestic tourists in the country. Followed by the manufacturing sector, contracted 2.6% subsequently with the worker restriction policy, while for the agriculture sector recorded a decline of 2.2% due to the contraction in oil palm, fishing, forestry, logging and rubber subsector. For mining and quarrying at negative 10%, attributed by decline in production of crude and condensate and natural gas due to lower market demand. For the construction sector, the increase 90.4%. This is aligned with the average of value work done by project increase. The implication of COVID-19 pandemic has affected economic activity, which further contributed to the number of Malaysian labour force, which comprise of the employed and unemployed person augmented by 0.6%, which is employed declined to 0.8%, while unemployed increased to 36.6%. The situation caused many job losses and source of income. In addition, business activity had to be temporarily halted and some had underground the business culture. Consequently, unemployment rate of the country reached at rate 4.5% in 2020, the highest in almost 3 decades.
Okay, so I will continue with the impacts of COVID-19 on retail, international trade, tourism and airline industry on the Malaysian economy. Retail. COVID-19 affected the retailers who were dependent on foreign tourists. Retailers which operated at tourist spots such as at KLCC and Island area reported that their sales has dropped about 80% since January 2020. Retail outlets had to incur additional costs by hiring more cleaners to wipe down public areas, administration staff to take temperature, and providing more hand sanitizers at strategic locations. Impacts on international trade. As we can see in the graph, exports decreased from preceding year amid the lockdown measures in many countries that affected technical and trade-related activities. The mainstay of Malaysia's services trade has faced a challenging situation which led to the highest deficit in services in 2020. The hardest hit industry in the COVID-19 pandemic turned to a deficit of 7.7 billion ringgit for the first time in 30 years. Impacts on tourism. Around 170,000 hotel bookings had been cancelled from early January to the middle of March 2020, which caused a total loss of 68 million ringgit. Many hotels had ceased operations, which led to countless hotel staff being left unemployed. Wish card and unpaid leave were executed for tourism companies to survive. Impacts on airline industries. As we can see from the graph, starting from mid-2020, airline companies nationwide have been forced to halt their operations since the introduction of the Movement Control Order MCO on 80th March. Malaysia Airlines, which from the beginning of the MCO has scaled down its operation, introduced salary cards and offered unpaid leaves to over 13,000 of its employees in order to survive. AirAsia suffered a record-breaking net loss of 992.89 million ringgit in the second quarter that ended June 30.
The aim of tackling the COVID-19 pandemic, which is spreading in Malaysia, has led the government to implement a strict 6R strategy that includes 6 levels that guide the government in tackling the COVID-19 and managing economic sustainability, which is resolve, resilient, restart, recovery, revitalize and reform. The level of resolve include government effort to control the spread of the virus through the implementation of movement control orders. And the resilient level is when the government announced the Prihatin and Prihatin additional stimulus package. As for restart in recovery stage is when the COVID-19 curve has been flattened and the economy has opened its stage, and also when the Penjana package has been announced. However, at the level of revitalize and reform, it involved the implementation of measure in the 2021 budget and the 12th Malaysia Plan. The 2021 budget emphasizes 4 main areas, which is safeguarding the welfare of the people, driving economic growth, sustaining life, and also the strengthening public service delivery. However, the 2021 budget involved large transfer payment made to affected parties, including household and business entity. Also, accelerate the digitization of economic activity, consider all strata of society affected, and also focus on capacity building small and medium enterprise SME, or also we call it PKS. The 2021 budget also introduced measures to increase productivity by expanding the use of technology across the board, including individual, SME, and also corporates, where it's focused on effort to increase foreign direct investment and also productivity as well as restore consumer confidence. In addition, the government will focus on the development of resilient SME by providing the necessary support for SME to thrive in the new environment and increase their potential globally. From there, we can see that 2021 budget can provide a solid foundation for the country to move toward a developed and inclusive nation to achieve the target set under the 12th.
Now, my turn to explain the measure taken by the government to handle the social economy. The first one is iLestari, which is the provision of withdrawals from the EPF. And the second is Bantuan Prihatin Nasional BPN, that's the direct cash transfers to the people. We go to the next slide. The requirement of iLestari. First, EPF contributors will be allowed to withdraw a portion of their saving from account 2, that 500 ringgit per month in 1 year. Next, account to represent about 30% of total saving for individual. It been estimated that up to 40% of total contributors have less than 6,000 ringgit in their account too. In fact, those in the bottom of 10% do not even have 500 ringgit in their account too, and it will be affect their retirement or old age. And last, limited to those registered and contributing to EPF, especially workers in the formal sector, and sadly to the workers in informal or non-standard job are not able to join in iLestari. So we go to the requirement of BPN that provided for all existing beneficiaries of the Bantuan Sara Hidup BSH, and for the qualified Malaysian who completed a tax return in recent year. Next, the BPN offer one cash payout based on income level. First one is 1,600 ringgit to household earning up to 4,000 ringgit per month. Second, 1,000 ringgit to households earning from 4,000 ringgit to 8,000 ringgit per month. Third, 800 ringgit to singles age 21 and above earning up to 2,000 ringgit per month. And the second last is 500 ringgit to singles age 21 and above earning from 2,000 ringgit and 4,000 ringgit per month. And the last one is 200 ringgit for every student studying at the Institute of Higher Education. That's all from me. Thank you.
So these are the highlights of the additional Prihatin SME Economy Stimulus Package. The salary subsidy for SMEs under the Prihatin Stimulus Package has been expanded to 13.8 billion ringgit from 5.9 billion ringgit with additional measures for all SME sizes from under 75 employees to over 200 employees. The aid comes with a condition that employers must retain their staff for at least 6 months. Next, special grant of 3,000 ringgit each for eligible micro businesses registered with the Inland Revenue Board amounting to 2.1 billion ringgit for 700,000 micro businesses. These SMEs must register with the Inland Revenue Board IRB to access this facility. The government will obtain a list of eligible SMEs from the Local Authorities and Companies Commission of Malaysia (SSM). Therefore, the government will be abolishing the 2% interest rate for the 500 million ringgit microcredit scheme under Bank Simpanan Nasional. Next, the microloan scheme for micro businesses extended to Tekong Nasional with a maximum loan limit of 10,000 ringgit per company at no interest. For this purpose, a sum of 200 million ringgit will be provided. Next, landlords urged to provide a rental discount of 30% to SMEs during MCO and 3 months after MCO to receive tax break for April until June period. Next, financial services providers registered under the Moneylenders Act 1951 to provide 6-month moratorium for SME loans from April 2020. IMSME.com.my, a one-stop portal for SMEs applying for loans under Prihatin, has been set up by Credit Guarantee Corp with support from Bank. For foreign worker levi cut by 25% for those with permits ending December 31, 2020, but discount not applicable for domestic helpers. And SMEs can apply for an extension to provide statutory documents to SSM. Next, employers advised to approach Human Resource Department to discuss employee contract terms such as salary cuts, no-paid leave during MCO. And lastly, government will consider initiative to stimulate startup ecosystem seen as enabler for Industrial Revolution 4.0.
So there are many industries that were badly affected due to COVID crisis. This is because certain industries such as educational industries, logistics were either allowed to be operated or they were still running their businesses through online platforms. For example, tuition centers, they were teaching students through online platforms. So the platforms that were badly affected were the ones that could not operate their businesses or services through online. So there are 4 main sectors that were badly affected due to COVID-19 crisis. The first one is small businesses such as small shops like shops that are on streets or roadsides. And due to COVID restrictions, small businesses were not able to operate. Secondly, airline industries, which is one of the mostly affected sectors. The change in the behavior of passengers following the COVID-19 crisis, travel restrictions and the ensuing economic crisis have resulted in a dramatic drop in demand for airline services. Thirdly, recreational and entertainment services such as pool, gyms and also coin-operated amusement devices. Last but not the least, hospitality services such as event planning, travel and tourism. Thank you.
Next, I will be talking about the business or economic activities that benefited from the COVID-19 crisis. They are information technology, pharmaceuticals and medical devices, healthcare, logistics, food and business, and entertainment. Most of the business activities pointed that the improvement of digital technology made their works more easily and endure the difficulty of communication between the management or customers. Most of the workers need to work from home, which is the new norm for them, and improve their productivity by implementing digital innovations for them to collaborate and communicate for each other. For instance, the management can utilize the usage of Office 365, which has cloud productivity solutions for the employees, vastly improve their productivity and collaboration. Other than that, most food and business sectors need to close their restaurants because of the pandemic. But it is not an excuse for them to rent out because e-commerce like GrabFood, Foodpanda or Halo provided a lot of initiative for the business owner to advertise their business or help them to sell their foods online. Next, I will pass to the next presenter.
The main challenge of the National Recovery Plan is to get the cooperation of the people and those who often break the rules and SOP sets. Another main challenge is the group of politicians. People also have a doubt whether this introduced package can last up to the next 2 or 3 years following the injection given by the government only for a short period of the time. How long COVID-19 will be with us? Many countries have already accepted the fact that this COVID-19 pandemic will never end completely. Khairy Jamaluddin, the Malaysian Health Minister, said that we must accept the fact that even if we manage to control this pandemic, the time will come when COVID-19 will become endemic and we must take steps to live with the virus. Will Malaysia succeed? Yes. In order to win the war against COVID-19, we must get the vaccine now. The increase in vaccination rates in Malaysia shows a reduction in the number of positive cases and due to COVID-19. Second, control the disease or virus with support of global system, global support and pandemic response R&D and manufacturing response. Last but not least, encourage all the government and key global organizations to appoint a COVID-19 global lead who reports to the head of the government and organization. From an economic perspective, there are 4 possible futures after COVID-19. A robust state capitalism, a descent into barbarism, a radical state socialism, and a transformation into a big society built on mutual aid. Versions of all of these futures are perfectly possible, if not equally desirable. That's all from us. Thank you.